Carl Jung once warned that the nicest people in the room are often the most lost. Not because they lack kindness, intelligence, or depth, but because somewhere along the way they learned that being themselves was unsafe. So they adapted. They became agreeable, helpful, understanding, and slowly, invisibly, they abandoned their own inner authority. People-pleasing does not begin as weakness. It begins as survival. At some point in early life, many people learn a silent lesson. Love is conditional. Approval must be earned. Belonging depends on behavior. So the psyche adapts. It studies others carefully. It learns what is rewarded and what is rejected, and it reshapes itself accordingly. Jung would say that this is the birth of a false self, a persona built not from truth, but from fear.
The persona is not evil, it is protective. It helps you fit in, it helps you avoid conflict, it helps you feel needed. But over time, living exclusively through the persona creates a fracture. The authentic self is pushed into the unconscious. Needs are ignored. Anger is suppressed. Boundaries are softened until they disappear. This is where people-pleasing becomes dangerous. When you constantly prioritize harmony over honesty, you lose contact with your inner compass. You stop asking, "What do I want?" and start asking, "What will keep them comfortable?" Jung believed that whatever is denied expression does not vanish. It sinks into the shadow. And the shadow does not remain silent. It leaks out as resentment, exhaustion, anxiety, and quiet self-contempt. The people-pleaser often appears calm, kind, and supportive. But inside there is tension, a chronic feeling of being unseen, of giving more than receiving, of being appreciated for usefulness, not for being. Jung warned that this inner split creates neurosis, not madness, but a subtle psychological suffering that drains vitality over time. One of the most painful aspects of people-pleasing is that it is rarely recognized as self-betrayal. It is praised, encouraged, even rewarded. Society often celebrates those who sacrifice themselves without complaint. But Jung would argue that excessive niceness is not virtue. It is avoidance. Avoidance of conflict, avoidance of rejection, avoidance of the fear that saying no might cost you love. At the core of people-pleasing is fear. Fear of abandonment. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of being seen as selfish. And beneath that fear is an even deeper one. The fear that if you stop performing, there may be nothing left to love. This is why Jung insisted that healing does not come from becoming more agreeable. It comes from becoming whole. Shadow work is not about becoming cruel or selfish. It is about reclaiming the parts of yourself that were exiled in order to be accepted. Your anger, your assertiveness, your preferences, your limits, your capacity to disappoint others without collapsing internally. These qualities are not flaws. They are functions of a healthy psyche.
When you suppress your shadow, it controls you unconsciously. When you integrate it, it becomes strength. The moment a people-pleaser begins to set boundaries, discomfort arises, guilt surfaces, anxiety spikes. Old conditioning whispers that danger is coming. But Jung taught that growth always feels like danger to the nervous system trained by fear. The psyche interprets unfamiliar self-respect as threat, not because it is wrong, but because it is new. Many people mistake this discomfort for proof they are doing something wrong. In reality, it is proof they are breaking a pattern. People-pleasing also distorts relationships. When you are always accommodating, others never meet the real you. They meet the version of you that adjusts to them. This creates shallow connection. Resentment builds silently, and when it eventually surfaces, it shocks everyone, including yourself.
Jung believed that authenticity is the foundation of real intimacy. Without it, relationships are built on performance, not presence. When you stop pleasing people, some relationships will weaken, others will disappear, but what remains will be real. This is one of the hardest truths. People who benefit from your self-betrayal will resist your self-respect, not always consciously, sometimes with guilt, sometimes with confusion, sometimes with withdrawal. This is not a sign that you are becoming worse. It is a sign that the dynamic is changing. Becoming whole means accepting that not everyone will like the integrated version of you. And that is not failure. That is differentiation.
Jung believed individuation, the process of becoming yourself, was a sacred responsibility, not an ego project, but an ethical one. Because when you abandon yourself, you unconsciously demand that others give you what you refuse to give yourself: approval, validation, safety, and no one can sustain that burden. When you stop people-pleasing, you stop negotiating your worth. You begin acting from alignment rather than fear. You say yes when it is true. You say no when it is necessary. You allow discomfort without rushing to erase it. And something unexpected happens when you stop organizing your life around approval. The tension you carried for years begins to loosen. Not because everyone suddenly understands you, but because you are no longer negotiating your worth in every interaction. Respect starts to replace approval. Respect is quieter than praise, but it is sturdier. It does not depend on performance. It emerges when others sense that you are no longer available for self-betrayal. With respect comes calm. The nervous system no longer has to scan constantly for cues, moods, or expectations. Anxiety fades, not because conflict disappears, but because you stop fearing it. You realize that discomfort is survivable. Disagreement is survivable. Disapproval is survivable. And in realizing this, your inner world stabilizes. Calm is not the absence of pressure. It is the absence of inner war.
This is when a deeper understanding of kindness emerges. You begin to see that kindness does not require self-erasure. Being kind does not mean ignoring your own needs. It does not mean absorbing disrespect in silence. It does not mean staying quiet to keep the peace while resentment grows underneath. True kindness includes yourself. Without that inclusion, kindness becomes martyrdom. Empathy, too, takes on a new meaning. Empathy does not mean submission. It does not require you to abandon your boundaries to validate someone else's feelings. You can understand another person's pain without carrying it. You can listen without agreeing. You can care without complying. This distinction is what separates emotional maturity from emotional exhaustion.
Love, then, is no longer something you earn through compliance. It becomes something that grows from truth. When you are honest about who you are, what you can give, and what you cannot tolerate, relationships become cleaner. Some connections fall away, not because you failed, but because they were built on accommodation rather than authenticity. What remains has depth, stability, mutual respect. Jung's message was never about becoming harsh or cold. It was about becoming honest. Honest with yourself before anyone else. Honest about your needs instead of dismissing them. Honest about your limits instead of apologizing for them. Honest about the parts of you that were silenced, not because they were wrong, but because they once felt unsafe.
Those silenced parts do not disappear, they wait. And when they are finally acknowledged, they do not turn you into a worse person. They make you more whole. This is why the nicest people are not always the kindest. Niceness can be a strategy. Kindness is a state of integration. Whole people do not give from fear. They give from fullness. They do not avoid conflict at all costs. They navigate it with clarity. They do not abandon themselves to be loved. They allow themselves to be seen. And when you stop pleasing others at the expense of yourself, you do not lose love. You lose illusions. You lose roles. You lose dynamics that required your silence to survive. What you gain is space. Space for honesty. Space for respect. Space for relationships that meet you where you are, not where you pretend to be. In that space, love finally has room to breathe.